Let's talk about the
Okay, let's
lymph,
do it. Let's do it.
right? So the lymph system, an AFL footballer's perspective, who's walking, he has 20 liters of fluid in the feet, 5 to 6 liters of blood, 13 to 14 liters of lymph. Just imagine, take your fingers, viewers, and run your fingers through the top of your foot. Now run it up around the back of your calf, migrate, spin your fingers around to the knee bone, up around your patella. That's it. You can do that because you can, Nessie. Run it up your thigh, run it over your pelvis, up your gut, over your sternum, and finish at the collarbone junction because that's where that lymphatic juice fluid has got to get to. Those lymphatic ducts are super important, right? Now, just imagine where you ran your fingers. We call that a river. And that river is wide and that river is narrow. And it consistently changes. So we would say the foot is a narrow part of the river. It's a bony structure. There's not much meat there. It's a narrow part. But then it comes into the calf complex, lower limbs, gets wider. So it's meaty, it's muscular. There's lots of fluid that can flow. Then it comes into that narrow part of the knee. And then it comes wide again into that big thigh area. Then it comes into that bony structure of the pelvis, which is really quite narrow when we look at the bony component. And then it comes into the gut, which is an amazingly wide part of the river because you have all these organs. And then it comes into the sternum, lateral rib cage, back, which is very narrow, very bony. Everywhere we have bone, there's the potential for that river to block because
That's such a
fluid has.
beautiful analogy.
Oh, thank you very much. So it's interesting though, because think of this, Ness, and this is just me thinking from my dorky perspective. We know that every piece of tissue is encased in fascia. Every organ, the brain, the gut, the bones, the nerves, everything's encased in fascia. And that fascia has to continually slide. So if I gently rub my hands together, you'll feel how the skin will create a heat, and that heat will actually allow some lubrication for the skin to keep moving. Now, what's interesting is if I apply a bit of force to both hands really lightly, now you notice they don't want to move in any direction. So my philosophy is, from a field soma perspective, is that from observation and 30 years of working with people, that if bones and joints don't move and aren't sequencing well with the muscles, the fascia, and the fluid, then what will happen is I will get bony structures that will stick.
Hmm.
And those areas that stick, fluid doesn't move well through them. And if I try and force it, I'll create some form of pain because we know that there's 200 million nerve endings in the fascia. And if you try and force fascia to move on fascia with no lubrication, it's really sensitive. But on the other end of the spectrum, if along that river system, my foot's moving well, my calves are moving well, my knees are moving well, hang on, I'm getting up to the thigh area, I'm getting up to the pubis area, I'm getting up to that belly area where we tend to hang on to fluid. Why do we store fluid there? I eat clean, I exercise, I'm sleeping reasonably well. Well, is there repetitive movement? Is there emotional stress? There's lots of things that can stop us. But the question I will ask is, wow, we go to the pelvis and we look at the pelvis, our very bony structure. And we know from an emotional state that we store a lot of stress in bone and fascia. Now, the pelvis, what does it do? Well, it's a movement center. It's a waste disposal unit. It's a reproduction system. It's a let's have fun system as we're growing up. But it's also an emotional filing cabinet. So if it's got 5 reasons for being there, and I reckon there's a few more, but I'm just going to leave those 5 as it is, then at any stage I get a gut feeling that things aren't good, guess what happens in my pelvis? Things glue up. Bingo. And as soon as the pelvis glues up, which is the crossroads of the body, then I start to store fluid in areas of thigh, butt, lower gut. So it's kind of interesting. It's looking at the river, understanding fluid flow. Where's it got to go? Point A to point B. And if I can get at point A to point B 9 times out of 10, we're going to get the opportunity for the body to be pretty healthy.
Yeah.